Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the LinkedIn live stream from NextAfter. Today, we're talking all about A/B testing, something that we reference a lot, something that we always show examples of, but we don't always talk about like what goes behind the scenes to run effective tests, let alone why we should test in the first place. And that's really where we're going to go today. We're going to talk about kind of high level, why is A/B testing so important? Why is it absolutely essential as a skill, a practice, and a discipline for you to learn and for you to develop at your organizations to drive better results? And then we're going to look at 5 unique, interesting learnings from tests that we have run this year that I think will prompt some different ideas for you to go test in your own fundraising, your own marketing, your own programs, and inspire hopefully future test ideas off into the future of your fundraising. Hello, Adam. I see you in the comments. Glad you're here. Anyone who is tuning in today, I would love for you to jump into the comments, whether you're on LinkedIn, you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, wherever you're at, jump in the comments and let me know who you are, what organization you're from, and where in the world are you tuning in from today. Hello, Kim from Los Angeles. Welcome. I'll continue to watch those as they come in and give some shout outs. So make sure you drop in the comments who you are, what organization, and where in the world you are tuning in from today. As those come in, I'm going to turn my slides on here, and we are going to get going talking about A/B testing for nonprofits. Hello, Stephen from Asheville, North Carolina, Beverly from Houston, Karen from Virginia. We've got Anna from Sacramento. We've got Veronica from somewhere, but she says hello. We've got all sorts of people from Colorado Springs to Arizona to LA to Toronto. We got some Canadians in the house. Whoop. Welcome, 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 everyone. I'm so grateful for your time today. I know it is not easy to carve off, even 30 minutes. We're going to try to spend more like 45 minutes to an hour today talking about A/B testing. It's hard to carve off that time. I'm really grateful for it. And so we're going to jump in right away and start talking about A/B testing. To get going, we're going to do a little warm-up activity. So you're getting your fingers warmed up on the keyboard. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Keep your fingers on the keyboard because I'm going to want you to vote for kind of which version of one of these experiments do you think is going to lead to better results? Which do you think is going to win? I won't share a ton of context about these kind of initial experiments. We'll explain a little bit of them, and then we'll start to dive deeper into the what makes for an effective A/B test and why we should test in the first place. So here we go. Which donation form do you think is going to win? Version A or version B? Just a little bit of detail. Version A here is a donation form that has a Google Pay button. It takes up the full width of the form. It's pretty large right there within kind of the viewport of the form. Version B still has a Google Pay button, but it's a little bit smaller. That's the only difference. All the other copy on the page is exactly the same. All the other form fields are exactly the same. Which one do you think is going to lead to more donations? We've got a lot of votes coming in real fast. We've got A. Anyone for B? Any brave souls want to vote for B? Or should we just go with the majority here? Everyone's saying A. Taylor likes the design of B, but version A is going to work better, she imagines. Chris says A. Wow. Would you like to see the result? Yes, Sarah. Strong vote for B. The lone B vote is actually the winner. Version B led to a 21% increase in donations. To dive just a rung deeper, this isn't necessarily about big buttons versus small buttons. It's not that every small button is going to outperform a big button. It likely has everything to do with, kind of expectations that are being set as you move through the form. When I'm working through version A and I choose my gift frequency, I choose my gift amount, and then I see the primary experience for me to pay is by hitting the Google Pay button. I might get kind of lost in Google Pay world. Maybe I don't have it fully set up. Maybe I'm not ready to make a payment that way. Maybe it's kind of a distraction in the process when I'm already moving through the form with a high level of momentum and velocity. Version B provides it as an option, but it doesn't take up all the real estate of the form to kind of put it front and center as the featured thing. It's an effective option for someone who has that set up and is ready to go to use it and prefers to use it, but it doesn't make it the focal point. And that's why it led to a 21% increase in donations. I see some people freaking out with some woohoos or some people saying, wah! This is why we have to test. Let's look at another one. Now that we're all warmed up with this one, we only had, I think, two, maybe three winners. I think some of those B votes came in even late, so maybe you cheated a little bit. But here we go. Here's another one. Which donation amount in this donation appeal is going to win, version A or version B? Version A is asking for a $30 donation. It says a $30 donation to Caring Bridge powers a site like Kelly's for 1 month. Version B says the same exact thing, but it changes the dollar amount. A $60 donation to Caring Bridge powers a site like Kelly's for 1 month. You may say, why are they messing with the gift amount and maybe not being genuine with their donors? You can just change those amounts? Maybe that doesn't feel great. But here's the background. They had been leaning on this $30 donation ask for a long time, for a few years. And over time, inflation is kicking in over the past few years, and it's driven up the cost that it actually takes to run one of their journal sites for a month. Now it's more in the $60 range. But instead of just rolling out the update to the dollar amount, they wanted to know, if we roll out this dollar amount change, how much is that actually going to impact donations and conversions and revenue? Because we don't want to roll something out that's going to be harmful. And so they ran this experiment, version A versus version B. Is it okay for us to move to a $60 donation ask? So let me know. And now it's hard to see which vote is for which experiment, but I see some $30 options. I see some $60 options. I think we've got some kind of a split decision here. Abby has an interesting insight. We need to know who the audience is. That's always a critical piece in any experiment, which is why we have to test for ourselves and not just rely on what somebody else tested. Here's what they found. If they rolled out the $60 donation ask, they would lose about 16%, a 16% decrease in donations during this testing window. And so they basically said, okay, well, we still have to be honest and genuine, but how do we do that? How do we do that in a way that doesn't harm our ability to raise money on a daily basis? Because this little tribute widget or this donation widget powers a lot of revenue for this organization. We're going to look at the follow-up experiment a little bit later on in the live stream, so keep that one in mind. Let's look at one more little warm-up example. This one is a different game. I'm not having you vote for version A or version B. I'm going to tell you that version B is the winner. Here's a little bit of context. Version A is the end of an article. They have lots of articles on this website from Today in the Word. It has a picture of the author and her name. It has her bio, so you can learn more about her. There is an opportunity in the navigation of this website and of any article page you're looking at to hit the donate button and give. There's also a link in the footer that you can hit the donate link to go give. Version B adds a Dear Reader donation ask at the bottom of every article. So you get to the bottom, you finish reading, and it says, Dear Today in the Word Reader. It has a multi-paragraph donation appeal, and then down at the bottom, it has a link to hit the button to go give. Version B is the winner. It did lead to more giving, but I want you to guess how much more did it actually impact donations. So you can drop a percentage amount in there. You could say, I think it's going to lead to a 10% increase, or maybe you think it's going to lead to a 200. Maybe you think it's a 2,000% increase. Drop your number in the comments. Let me know, what kind of impact do you think version B is going to have? I'll keep my eye on the comments here for a moment. Again, there could be a wide range here. I see a few different comments. Stephen goes for a 25%. Eric says $1. We've got $1. Thank you. Thank you, Eric Tavares. Steve says 18% more. We got a 45. We got a 50%. I got to really work on my auctioneer voice here. We got Abby going in for a 350% increase. Are you ready for the result? It actually led to a whopping 1,490% increase in donations. Can you believe it? Huge, huge impact. Now, I can't guarantee that you're going to see a nearly 1,500% increase in donations by just adding this to your article pages, but they did in this case, which is a fantastic. And we knew going in, most likely you're going to see an uptick if you are specifically asking for a gift, versus version A, where you're not really specifically asking for anything. You're almost always going to see an uptick. But testing helps you prove that this strategy is actually going to be meaningful going off into the future, and give you the context to know how much impact can we actually make by implementing something like this. Kim says, holy cow, I'm with you. This is huge. Holy cow. I have a question for you. As you're looking at these different versions, version A versus version B, trying to figure out which one is going to win, how did you decide? How did you decide which one was going to lead to better results? Drop it in the chat if you have an idea. I know this is kind of a hard question to answer directly because there might be a wide variety of motivations and things that are influencing your thought process. If you have an idea, drop it in the comments. I'd love to see. My thinking is that there's probably a few, if not several, different things that are influencing your decisions. One would be intuition. This is probably for the vast majority of us, we're just going with our gut. That's another another good word for intuition, going with your gut feeling. But there's a problem, as I think we all would recognize, with just going with your gut and going with your intuition, which is, first of all, it's subjective. Your gut feeling, your intuition is subjective. Secondly, it's constantly changing. If I showed you these same experiments a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, you might have a different opinion. You might have a different idea because your experience over time is going to change what you think about this page. Third, who's to say that your opinion, your intuition, your gut feeling is better than someone else's? You may say, well, I have 15 years of experience as a fundraiser. And so, I've seen a lot of stuff and I know what works. That's a very common mentality and approach in marketing, in fundraising, and beyond. But the reality is that some of the best winning experiment ideas come from people who haven't been staring at the same donation page for the past 6 months, 12 months, or beyond. They're people who are bringing fresh ideas and fresh eyes, who can see things different and see things new, and oftentimes inject some innovation into the process. So who's to say that your 15 years of experience is going to give you the best idea to make this donation page work? We can't just rely on our intuition and gut feelings. We have to put things to the test. We also can't just rely on best practices. Best practices is a great, I think, term and concept in a lot of other industries when it comes to like manufacturing and production and all that sort of stuff, where there are industry standards for how things have to be done to ensure quality, to ensure safety. When it comes to marketing communications, yes, there are some best practice on the technical side and how like emails should be deployed and pages should be created and all that sorts of stuff. But when it comes to the nuance of language and copy and strategy, it's really hard to just rely on best practices, because most of the best practices that get shared out there are based on a case study, maybe one test, one example where someone saw some positive results, and then those tend to get promoted as this is the way that you should do it. But the reality is, the more that we test, the more that we see that common quote unquote best practices are rarely the best performing strategy. And there's so much nuance inside of when things work, why things work, and which audience they are effective for. On top of that, best practices are not specific to you. They're not specific to your donors. They're not specific to a campaign or a specific segment of donors. So we can't just blindly apply them and assume that they're going to work in every scenario. So we can't just rely on best practices. Third, oftentimes we lean on things, maybe we don't even know it, but something called familiarity bias, where we're more inclined to try and do the things that we're familiar with, that we've seen other people doing, or maybe we're comfortable with. We've done this same strategy, the same tactic over and over for years. Why would we change it? Oftentimes we look to other organizations or fundraisers or marketers that we respect, organizations that we admire, maybe other organizations that we give to and we think their communication is interesting. We assume it's effective. And so then we copy and paste and we put it in our own and we assume it's going to be effective there too. But who's to say they didn't do the same thing and go copy a different organization that they think is cool and interesting and admirable? Maybe we're all just repeating the same broken strategies and we need to try something new. That's where testing comes in, and that's why we're here, because A/B testing, it has a lot of pros. It's going to help you cut through bias. It's going to help you cut through subjectivity. It's going to give you statistical proof of what actually works to get more people to say yes to signing up for your newsletter, downloading an ebook, opening your emails, clicking through on your appeals, actually converting when they get to the donation page. Statistical proof of what actually works. The results that you get are also going to be contextual to you. I hear from many fundraisers, and you probably feel this way too, like, our organization is unique. Our organization is different. Our donors are unique. And that's often true, which is why we have to test things for ourselves in a specific context and not just blindly apply a best practice that worked for someone else. There's challenges to testing. It is not the ultimate tool and skill that's going to magically solve every single problem, because you have to have significant expertise to do it well. Many people who teach about A/B testing try to make it scary a little bit, because there's so much science that can go into it, and math and statistics and all that sort of stuff. My view and our view at NextAfter, we just want more people to try testing, because there are so many tools and calculators and all that stuff out there that make it really easy for people like you and me. I'm not a statistician. I don't have a degree in mathematics, but it makes it easy for people like us to actually go run meaningful testing, as long as we have kind of a process to guide us to do it well. It can be hard to test complex goals and complex outcomes with testing. When you're trying to move the needle on metrics like donor retention, you've got to measure that often into the future. It's really hard to control all the different variables that could be impacting someone's likelihood of giving to you again next year. There's ways we can do it, but it's certainly hard. So it's hard to test complex goals. It also takes time. It's not instant. You can't sit around a conference table, argue about it, and then come up with a statistically confident result. You have to go actually deploy your ideas into the market with enough time to get enough data to make an informed decision about what's going to work. It also requires that you have a certain amount of volume of traffic, of donors, of people actually seeing your test to get a conclusive result. We are going to unpack all of that stuff in a brand new course we have on A/B testing. Today, we won't get into all of that nuance. What I want to do next, though, is answer this question, which some of you probably have in your mind and just haven't asked yet, because this tends to happen. We get 10, 15 minutes into talking about testing, and someone brave enough says, okay, what is it? What is testing? Like, this is interesting, but what is it? Feel free to jump in the comments and say, yep, that's me, if you're feeling that way, because I want to define it so we all are clear about where we're going, what we're really talking about. An A/B test looks something like this. You have a version A, you have a version B. You might call it the blue version and the green version in this example. Common words that you may hear to describe those is the control and the treatment. You may say that that sounds like middle school science class, and it exactly is middle school science class. We are applying the scientific method to fundraising, marketing, and communications. We've got two versions. We'll say that they're donation pages. Maybe version A is testing one messaging approach, and version B is testing a different set of copy, talking about your value proposition in a slightly different way. And we want to see which one is going to be more impactful and more effective in getting more people to say yes. In order to do that, we can't just deploy version A, go watch the performance for a month, and then switch the copy and go watch the performance for another month, and then compare and contrast the results. Because there is a seemingly infinite amount of variables that could change from month 1 to month 2. What we want to be able to do is look at the performance of these two versions at the same time. So we have to be conducting our experiments within a fixed time frame, so that if there's a bunch of new traffic that shows up, if there's some sort of current event that might change people's motivations, different things like that, that it's true of both versions. The only change we want to actually be different between version A and version B is what we're changing on the page. In our little example here, the copy, version A's copy versus version B. In order to do that effectively, what you're doing really is not just having a page over here and a page over there. You're sending your web traffic to one donation page using a testing tool that splits it in half. So half your traffic is going to see version A, half your traffic is going to see version B. Ideally, those are kind of split randomly. You're making sure that you get kind of the same amount of each different donor segment in each one, so you don't have a bunch of recurring donors in version A and a bunch of new people in version B. It's a random, as Karen says here, a randomized 50-50 split. So we're controlling all variables, and the only thing we're measuring is what's the difference in performance when I change the copy from version A to version B. That is an A/B test in a nutshell. There's a lot more we could dive into. In fact, there are 8 specific steps to running an effective test. We are not going to cover all of that today. If you would like to dive into the 8 effective steps for running an A/B test, I'd love for you to check out a brand new course on A/B testing just released this week. If you are a member of the NextAfter Institute already, this course should be in your dashboard. If it's not, just shoot me an email. I'll make sure it gets in there. I'll have a link at the end. I think we can put it up on the screen here too. If you want to go activate the course today and you're not a member already, we've got some different options for you. But this course is going to dive into kind of introductory concepts and ideas around A/B testing. We'll cover a little bit of what we just covered, but we're also going to dive deeper into some other case studies about how testing not just tells you what strategies or what tactics are going to work on a given page, but can actually transform your strategy as a whole. Even thinking about how do we go acquire new donors in an effective way? Should we be selling products as a means of generating revenue, or should we maybe use those as free offers as a means of acquiring new donors? It can help answer a lot of those questions. We'll unpack a case study there. Session 2, we'll dive into planning your experiment, all the prep work that has to go in to run an effective test. Session 3, we dive into how do you go execute it? How do you go set it up practically in a tool like VWO to go run the test? We'll look at how to analyze it. How do you learn from your results in a meaningful way? What do you do if you have an inconclusive result? Do you just throw it out the window and start over? What do you do with it? We'll dive into that. And then in session 5, we'll even talk about how to start to build an A/B testing program at your organization, not just running one-off experiments, but how do you get on a cadence and a rhythm of testing often into the future over time to get the most test runs, so you get the most wins, so you get the biggest lifts over time and into the future. Now, what I want to do the rest of our time here today is to talk about what I promised, 5 interesting learnings from recent A/B tests. Can we dive into that? Are you all ready for it? I see a shout out from Rick. Thank you. He says the A/B class is great. Rick, I believe you took the previous one and now we have a brand new updated one. You're welcome to dive into that one too. For those that took our previous one, there's a lot of new ideas, kind of new concepts, new examples, and all that stuff in this brand new course as well. Let's dive into 5 interesting learnings from recent A/B tests. We're going to play the same game for a little bit here, but we're going to dive a rung deeper into the actual learnings from these experiments. So which pop-up do you think is going to win? Choose version A or version B. This pop-up comes up on the website for WUNC, and it's asking, are you prepared for the upcoming election? 2 different approaches here. They're trying to get you to sign up for an email series that basically is going to give you updates and news and that sort of stuff related to the upcoming election this year. Version A, you can fill out the form right there in the pop-up, enter your first name and your last name, enter your email address, hit the sign up button, you're done. You're signed up for the email. They're going to start coming to your inbox as soon as the next one comes out. Version B removes the form. You hit the sign up button, and then you go to a separate landing page where then you have to read more copy and then you have to fill out the form on that page. So version A, it's all self-contained. Version B is kind of a 2-step process to actually get signed up. And I see some really interesting results coming in from the crowd today. We've got lots of votes for A, several votes for B as well. Now we've got people kind of justifying their vote. I like it. Version A, it takes a step away. Carrie says she likes A. Adam is going with A. Any strong arguments for B? Anyone feel like B? Can anyone justify why they would vote for B rather than A? Because it's an interesting approach. You're in effect testing, should we add an additional step in the process? Here's what we saw. We saw that version B, Elodie says that they have a reason why they chose B. I'm glad you have a reason. I think we all have a reason why we chose. I'd love to know what it is. Here's what we saw, a 55% increase in signups by adding that extra step. Now I see Karen dropping this note in here that there's less friction for A. And that's what's really interesting to me about this experiment. And we've seen it a handful of times. This isn't just a one-off experiment. We've seen this in a few different scenarios where actually adding a step can sometimes lead to more people saying yes. But there's nuance to that. There's context to that. Because if you take a donation page and go split that thing up into multiple page loads and multiple steps, you are going to lose people at every single step, and you're going to decrease donations. In a situation like this, where I'm coming to the homepage of the website, maybe I'm reading an article, I'm not expecting there to be a call to action on the page for me to sign up for some email series about something I'm unprepared for. We're interrupting them with the pop-up. And oftentimes when you have an interrupter like this, you sometimes need to build a little bit more momentum to get people to actually say yes on, or to the ultimate decision, to build some momentum, increase their motivation by getting them to say yes to a smaller decision before you ask them to actually go fill out the form. So getting someone to just hit the sign up button is a lot easier than getting someone to actually fill out the form itself. It takes them then to a dedicated page where the one thing that they're being asked to do on the page is sign up for the email series. There's no distractions on the page leading you to other things. It's a focused landing page. So here's really our key learning. Sometimes, I'll put in quotes, friction can actually improve results if it's leading someone to say yes to an initial first step, particularly if we've interrupted them from something else. This is one of those tactics that you have to test. Because if you just go blindly implement this everywhere, it's like, oh, we just need more steps. We need more people to say yes to smaller things all the time. You're probably going to hurt your results across the board. But it's nuanced. So we got to go test it with specific audiences and specific locations with specific calls to action. But sometimes you need someone to take that initial first step before you put the larger call to action in front of them. Taylor says, that's sales 101, isn't it? Ask for a smaller commitment at first. Yes. However, again, there's lots of context and there's lots of nuance, because there's times where we have run a similar test and seen it more impactful to put the form right there in the ad, usually because it's more expected they're ready for it. But if they're not ready for it, they're being interrupted, sometimes this is the more effective approach. Lots of interesting things we can go apply that to. Here's another interesting experiment learning. Which donation form is going to win? Version A versus version B. In version A, you can see the gift frequency selector. You can see the gift array. And then in the bottom right corner, I've included the actual call to action button that's at the bottom of the donation form. Version B is the same page. It's the same form. Everything about the page is exactly the same, except that they added this little American flag emoji next to the Join the Leaders Club little call out on the gift frequency tab. In this case, the Leaders Club is like their sustainers program, their recurring giving program. They added the same little American flag icon to the Renew My Membership call to action button at the bottom of the form. Stephen asks, why the US flag? The reason is this organization works in kind of crafting, suggesting policy, doing some advocacy type of work, specifically in the United States. And so their hypothesis going into this experiment is not so much that, hey, if we add American flags to stuff, it's going to magically transform our results. The idea is people who follow us care about America, and there's some sense of alignment with a community of shared values by putting the flag right there on the call to action button. That was the hypothesis going in. And what they saw, I see everyone's already voting. I didn't even have to ask you. I love it. We got lots of A's, we got lots of B's, we got people defending their votes, which I love. A, but I've been getting these wrong. That's okay, Taylor, because we get them wrong all the time, which is why we have to test. Kim says she's seen this movie before. Maybe she gets Winston's Weekly and saw this a few weeks ago. We've got B. Frank says B, pro-patriotism. Let's show the result. They saw a 170% increase in donations by adding this tiny little American flag emoji on the call to action button and next to the Join the Leaders Club selector in the frequency tabs up top. Is that incredible? The learning here is not let's go add emojis to everything. Do not take that away today. That's not what I'm trying to promote. Here's the key learning though. Relevant design elements can do a couple of things. One, you can use them to increase the visibility of the call to action. If I jump back here, I'm going too far ahead. If I jump back here, the call to action is more in focus just by adding that visual element. Specifically, the emphasis on joining the Leaders Club is more visually prominent because it has that little emoji next to it. But secondly, and maybe more importantly, is this type of imagery can help reinforce someone's sense of belonging, helps reinforce a set of values. It helps reinforce a sense of community of people that care about the same things that I do. Now, this test actually came from, I believe it was Jeff Giddens, who oversees a lot of our client work. He was buying, I believe, some Atlanta Braves gear, and on the call to action button in the checkout cart was the logo, the team logo. And as he's going through that, he clicks the button, he ends up buying a shirt, a hat, whatever he was getting, but then has the thought like, Why would they add that logo to the button? It's because I feel this sense of community around this team that I love. Well, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if we could do that for nonprofits. So whether it's an American flag on your donate button, or it's something that's actually more relevant to your organization, to your cause, to your donors, to your community, to your shared values, you can test those different design elements to certainly draw more attention to a specific call to action, but also to reinforce someone's sense of belonging to a specific community that's trying to make an impact. So it's not about adding emojis, but have a think about what kind of imagery and design would help build that sense of community. All right, let's go. Here's our next one. Which treatment do you think is going to win? This one takes a little bit more setup and context, but it's a really fascinating experiment in my opinion. So this organization, they work in Canada. They do some stuff around tax policy in Canada, as you can probably see from some of the things on the screen. And they have sort of a catch-all page on their website. They have a lot of different petitions. They want people to sign up and sign the petition to change this policy or do this thing and make an impact over here in Quebec around this policy. And they have this catch-all page for all these different petitions where you can kind of search through and sort through all the various petitions that you might want to sign. In version B, what they did was they took that page and they added some little descriptions to each of the different cards. They're just kind of pulling from the template of the petition pages. They're pulling them into the cards, almost like a blog page, like a blog search feed where you can see like the first line of the blog. And we suggested running this experiment. And the way the conversation went was we said, hey, look at this page. I wonder if people don't have enough context to make a decision about which petition to sign, because we're showing the image, we're showing the location, like the different state in Canada where it's relevant. You've got the title and you've got the call to action button, but maybe they need a little bit more. And some of the feedback in the way the conversation was, well, we actually don't get a lot of people that sign up for petitions from this page. Like we kind of have to have the page, but it's probably not worth the time to really go tweak and optimize because people on that page don't actually sign petitions. But we said, well, maybe they would if they had more information. Maybe it's not about their motivation. Maybe it's about a lack of communication about the things that are most important to someone trying to make a decision at this point in the funnel and in the engagement. So they ran this test, and I see lots of people voting for version B. You know what? You would be correct on this one. 17% increase in conversions just by pulling in that little one-line description of the petition. What's really, I think, important here is not so much, I mean, we all could kind of assume adding a little bit more information is probably going to be helpful. What's important here, though, is that we can't expect people to convert if we're not giving them enough reasons to say yes. This experiment kind of unlocks even a brand new location on the website for them to pour more time and energy and effort into testing and optimizing to lead more people into these petition funnels, which leads more people into the opportunity to give. So that's the power of testing. It can unlock opportunities like that. It's not just about the nuanced tactic. It's about the opportunity that it can unlock downstream. Key learning, again, don't expect users to convert if you're not giving them enough reasons to say yes in the first place. Steve is asking, does version A ever win? It does, Steve. Version A does win many times. But I'm not going to tell you what the results are of the next ones. You're going to still have to guess. All right, here we go. Which Ask About is going to win? This is kind of a throwback to that initial experiment that we looked at. Remember how we said in that first experiment, this is from CaringBridge, their costs to run their sites had gone up over the past few years. Inflation going up, cost of everything just going up. And so it now costs them about $60 a month to keep one of these journal sites up and running. But when they ran that first experiment to see, can we ask for 60 bucks? Is it going to help us? Is it going to hurt us? Is it going to change anything? They saw a decrease in conversions and donations. So they went back to the drawing board. This is an important point about testing. The question about does A ever win? Some of you have asked similar questions. What's really interesting is that you go look at some benchmarks from anyone doing testing, not just in the nonprofit world. The average sort of win rate is often around 10%, maybe 20% in an effective program. That means that really like 1 in 10 of the tests you run is actually going to be a winner. The rest are either going to be a loser or inconclusive. Now, we can still learn things from those types of tests, but about 1 in 10, sometimes 1 in 5 experiments is actually a winner. We always have to keep iterating and optimizing and testing. Just because you get a loss or an inconclusive result doesn't mean we throw it away. It means we keep iterating. We learn what we can and we move on to the next test. That's what they did here. They went back to the drawing board and they said, well, what if we communicated it in a different way? What if we reframed the appeal? What if we reframed even the gift amount that we're asking for? So version A, asking for $30 to power sites for 1 month. They just learned that asking for $60 to power a site for a month was harmful. But what if we asked people to give $25 to power a site for 2 weeks? Still saying basically the same thing. You go multiply that out over like 4.5-ish weeks per month. You're at about that $50 to $60 range. $25 for 2 weeks. Different framing, but it's still being honest and genuine about what it takes to power these sites. What they found, Rick says he doesn't care which one wins, but I'm not voting for B. Here's what we saw. It led to a 39% increase in donations. 39% increase. Here's the key takeaway. It's not about asking for less money. It's about there's always more than one way to frame your donation ask. The only way that we can really truly know what's the most effective way to frame your donation ask is to put it to the test. Whether you're considering, do we ask for $50? Do we ask for $100? Do we communicate the impact on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? Do we ask people to give to program A or program B? The way that you frame it, it's like the ways to frame your donation ask are seemingly infinite. There's always new ways that you can frame your copy and your messaging. But again, the only way to truly know what's most impactful and what's most effective is to put it to the test. Here's one more experiment example for you. This is a fun one. Version A, I don't really even have any imagery for you. It's a direct mail campaign. It's not an email going out. It's not a website. It's not a donation page. It's a direct mail campaign. This was actually run during year end. I told you these are all from this year. It was from year end. We logged it in our library this year, so technically it meets the mark. Version A, direct mail campaign, asking people to give basically by sending out a package that has a calendar in it, like a holiday kind of theme calendar, and then a bunch of different holiday Christmas cards. And what you can do with this, you can keep the calendar, you can go give it away to somebody, you can use the holiday cards to send to your family, to your friends, to your loved ones throughout the season. They send this package, and along with it, obviously, is a donation appeal to give to the organization. That's version A, straight up direct mail calendar campaign. Version B, they split that audience in half. They took the direct mail list and they retargeted them with Facebook ads. They started these ads 10 days before the direct mail drop was going to happen. They ran them until 10 days after the direct mail drop happened. The goal of this was not to drive online giving. In fact, they're not even asking. If you squint or you zoom in, you blow it up, you can look at the ad. They're not asking for a gift in the ad. They're not asking for a donation. They're not optimizing their ads to lead to greater conversions. All they're optimizing for is to get more eyeballs on the ad. So if you're receiving this in the mail and you're scrolling on Facebook a couple days before or a couple days after, it serves as a reminder. All the copy is just reminding you that, hey, this thing is on its way to your mailbox. It's letting you know to expect it. It's priming you for the package that's about to drop. It's priming you for the donation appeal that's going to come in your mailbox. And then when that thing is sitting on your kitchen table or it's sitting on your counter, it's reminding you that you need to go back to it and make your donation. Without even saying the words make a donation, it's kind of this priming impact before it arrives. And it's this constant reminder when you're scrolling on Facebook, or maybe you're scrolling on Instagram, anything kind of in the meta ad universe, they're reminding you of the package that's sitting in your mailbox. This led, you ready? This led to an 11% increase in donations. I know that's not the 1,500% lift that we saw earlier on. That's like pie in the sky. We're dreaming about 1,500% lifts. But imagine if you could get an 11% uptick on your direct mail appeals during the biggest giving season of the entire year by spending $2,500 on Facebook ads. Would you do it? That's what they saw in this case. They spent $2,500 to go retarget their direct mail list, about 25,000 people. They saw an 11% uptick in conversions. Positive movement is good. We say it's still good, almost like, oh, isn't that 11% increase cute? I mean, it's good, but this is awesome. This is huge. An 11% uptick in giving from your direct mail file is huge. We would all take that. The learning from this experiment. Yes, we should run some kind of retarget. Yes, Abby, it did cover the cost of the ads way more than the cost of the ads. The ads were cheap when you're optimizing for reach. The key learning here, direct mail donors are often also online. Even if they never give to you in an online channel, they are online anyway. They're scrolling on Facebook. Maybe it's on their phone, maybe it's on their iPad, maybe it's on their desktop. They're scrolling on Facebook. They might be on Instagram. They might be on other platforms too. They're on other websites where you might be running like Google ads, where you'll place an ads on different websites as they're scrolling through articles and things like that, where you can remind them of the package coming in the mail. Digital channels are not just about driving results in digital channels. Digital channels have the unique opportunity to lift results across your entire program. Even if someone never gives to you online, it can help them choose to give more via the mail or at an event, or the next time they show up at your office and maybe they're dropping off a check or something like that. It can help lift the impact of every other channel, which changes the way that we have to measure our programs. That's a conversation for another day. Lots of interesting learnings from this stuff. We could spend so much more time diving deep into more experiments. We have almost 6,800 online fundraising experiments in our library. We see about 30 new ones come in every single week. Always testing, always iterating, always optimizing, and always learning. If you want to learn how to do that for yourself, again, we have this brand new course, A/B testing for nonprofits. We did have a course on A/B testing, and we just made it entirely brand new. All new content, new examples, new experiments, even some new approaches and ways to think about your programs. The previous course, if you took it, had some examples using Google Optimize. Google Optimize is gone. They left us last summer. We now have new tools that we can use. So we talk about how to set up experiments in VWO, which is our preferred platform for A/B testing on your websites, donation pages, etc. So it's practical, it's hands-on, it's also is strategic and conceptual. I would encourage you to go scan that QR code. You can go and get lifetime access to this course. Normally, it costs $2.99. If you sign up today and this week, you can get lifetime access to this course for just $99. You also can sign up for a membership. And if you sign up for a membership, you get access to every single one of our courses. You can do a 30-day free trial to see if you even like it. You could actually finish this entire course in the next 30 days and never pay a dime if you go that way. It's up to you. Scan that QR code. You can find out more about how to go access this course. The other thing I want to put in front of you today and suggest for you is this. And once we're done talking about these kind of next steps, we'll do some Q&A. So if you've got questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll try to take a look through those. But if you learn all these practices and disciplines and skills around A/B testing, you want to start testing, you're kind of starting from zero in some cases, where you might be starting to iterate on things that we've maybe tested years ago and learned more about what's effective and what's impactful. We would love to help you move a little bit faster and really accelerate your growth. So we have this opportunity, this kind of initiative that we call the mystery donor analysis, where basically you can have someone from our team, from the NextAfter team, jump in and take a look at two main things: your email pathway. What is the experience in the process of someone that's on your website looking to sign up to stay connected to you, either via a newsletter or some other type of email offer? What are all the opportunities inside of that process to go optimize it? We'll give you ideas to test. We'll give you things that maybe you should just implement if you don't have the opportunity to test, based on everything that we have learned from nearly 7,000 experiments in our experiment library. We'll do the same thing with your entire donation pathway, which is looking at the full experience from the time someone shows up on your homepage. Where do they go to actually give a gift? What's the messaging in the process? What's the value proposition? Are there barriers or blockers of elements of friction that are keeping people from saying yes to giving? We'll compare that again to our library of nearly 7,000 experiments, show you what we've learned works, what we've learned doesn't work, show you what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, and all the different ways you can optimize and test your way into growth in the future. And sometimes out of that even comes some recommendations on different projects or initiatives beyond just testing that can fuel your growth into the future. So if you want to learn about that and have someone from the NextAfter team actually jump in and take a look at your experience. You can scan this QR code to learn more. You can fill out the form, even schedule time to chat with me about it. We'll spend a few minutes chatting about the process and see if it's a good fit for you. So scan that QR code, go check it out. We'd love to spend some time with you looking at how to optimize your online giving. I'll put those 2 calls to action up here. You can scan those kind of at your leisure to go explore those different opportunities. I want to take the rest of our time. We'll do a quick time check. We've got about 15 minutes until noon my time. We're going to do some questions, and I think we've got several of them. So let's take a look at all of the questions. Give me a moment to pull those up. Amy is asking, what's the current average gift? I don't know if that was specific to one of the experiments or just in general. We conducted a benchmark study at the beginning of this year. I think we published it early March. If you go to benchmarks.nextafter.com, we've got a ton of that type of data from looking at what we would call a digital first organization, organizations that are spending significant time and energy investment to lead their programs with digital, not just for the sake of digital growth, but as we said earlier, in order to lift results of all channels. We've got benchmarks in there on conversion rates, web traffic, average gift size, all that sort of stuff, as well as things like retention, acquisition targets, advertising KPIs, and benchmarks. So go check that out, benchmarks.nextafter.com. If you go look at kind of global average gift size for a digital first organization, it's around $70. For some of you, you might say like, oh, $70, that sounds low. But those that are making the investment in growing digital programs are doing a ton in digital acquisition. And so they have a lot of new donors coming in the front door that maybe are starting in a smaller level, but they're seeing growth across the entire program using that type of methodology and that type of an approach. And I would rather have a slightly lower average gift size if it's going to fuel more donors, and it's going to fuel greater lifetime value of those donors often into the future. So again, go check out all those data points, benchmarks.nextafter.com. Thank you, Amy, for the question. We've got one from Alice saying, did it say Dear Reader or was it personalized with a name? That was asking about the Today in the Word example with the Dear Reader offer at the end of the article. It literally said Dear Reader. In that case, I mean, ideally, if we could go personalize that call to action with the first name, that would be a really fascinating test to run. We've seen on different landing pages when the name has been captured, like on a previous page or something, you can go personalize the headline. That often, not always, often can lead to a lift and an impact. Certainly in an email appeal, we should always be personalizing by first name. In this case, they weren't able to. It just says Dear Reader, which is a very common thing to see across different news sites and article subscription sites, things like that. We're just applying it to a donation appeal. Great question. I'm going to snag a drink of water and then we'll ask Sandy's question. The question, could it have been personalized to a donor by name? Kind of same question. Absolutely, yes. If you can do that, you should do that. You should test it so you know exactly what impact it can make. I can think of like one experiment in our library where it didn't actually help results and it may have actually hurt. Sometimes you might see that personalization in a place where it's maybe unexpected could be harmful because it feels creepy. Like, ooh, what data do you have where you can personalize this? I like, ooh. Sometimes people might not feel like it's actually helpful. They might feel like it's creepy. So you definitely test it so you know for sure most of the time it's going to lead to a lift. Question from Ruth. Does this work for political campaigns too? I'm trying to remember when this question came in because I saw it come in. I would say, I mean, if you can feel free to jump in the comments and give me more specifics about which tactic you're referring to here. I would say almost every one of these different experiments that we've looked at can work inside of that type of campaign. We don't do political fundraising. That's not really our bread and butter. We choose to work in organizations outside of the political campaign space. But a lot of these tactics can be, they're just about how people make decisions. And those things are going to be pervasive across different verticals, different types of organizations. So the messaging might be different. Some of the timing and urgency language might be a little bit different, especially in the world of a political campaign. But a lot of the more kind of principles that we're extracting here can apply in almost any vertical, any type of nonprofit. Great question, Ruth. Rick. Hello, does Tim, you and the NextAfter gang have some ideas in the pipe that might help the small shop be able to do some limited testing? It's a great question. For those that don't have the opportunity to test, I mean, I referenced that mystery donor analysis that can kind of serve, I would say, two camps. If you're in a place where you can't really test because you don't have the capacity to, maybe you don't have a lot of web traffic, you're a smaller organization, you don't have a huge donor file, that sort of stuff, you might still benefit from going through that type of an analysis, because if you don't lean on tested and proven principles, you're just kind of extracting some of the best practices that are out there. You're still kind of at this risk of, we're applying best practices, maybe they're not super proven in our context or for our donors, but we're going to hope for the best. But if you go look through our library of experiments, these are things that we have tested and proven over time. All the things that we go put out in webinars like this, live streams like this, courses, ebooks, templates, are things we've tested multiple times. We're fairly confident are going to work the majority of the time to lead to increases in performance. So I would rather base my strategies, even if I can't test, I'd rather base them on tactics that have been proven to increase results. So again, I would say if you can't test, I would go through the different templates, courses, ebooks we have. You can go apply those things with a high degree of confidence. They're going to be impactful. Even something like that mystery donor analysis may be helpful for you. If you're on the other side of that and you really can test, that analysis will give you all the ideas to go test to make sure that they work for you and in your context. So hopefully that's helpful, Rick. We've got a few other things I'm probably not ready to mention yet that might also help you related to some analytics platforms and that sort of stuff that are coming down the road. So keep an eye out for all of that. More to come there, Rick. Great question. Question from Amelia. As a small organization, we worry that we don't have a large enough audience for A/B testing. It's very common. Is there a certain number of people you recommend that need to see something in order to understand which option is stronger? Fantastic question. It's also a very nuanced question, and there's not just like a single benchmark. In the course, we unpack what to do with that. Specifically, there's lots of different calculators and tools out there that can kind of help you get a sense before you even run a test if you have a chance of getting a valid result. If you've got a donation page up, we'll just say it's your main donation page, and you get maybe 10, 20, 30 people hitting it per week, you see 1 or 2 donations, you probably don't have enough volume to actually go run experimentation on your main donation page. However, it might be that you have a strong email file. They're not coming through your main donation page, but you have a strong email file that you can reach out to. That might be a place where you have greater volume and more eyeballs that are engaged and active kind of in your messaging and marketing, where you could start to test. I like to give the example. I used to run all the different marketing that we do here at NextAfter. And when I first started doing that, we had a very small email file size. We didn't have a lot of web traffic. And so we were testing with organizations that we couldn't really test ourselves. Where we started was in our email file. Get some wins, just trying to drive clicks, trying to drive more opens, trying to drive more eyeballs, ultimately trying to get more people to convert on whatever you're offering. Get some learnings there that you can go apply in other areas. And then as you build up that volume, you're going to kind of unlock new places that now have enough eyeballs, visitors, people to actually go run an effective test. So that's where I would start, is find those areas where you have the most volume and see if you can test there, get some early wins, and try to drive better results in other channels, or then you can start testing over time. Another question from Rick. Can you please suggest the minimal numbers required to approach validity or the perfect 1.0 relevance score? Again, the answer there is fairly nuanced in terms of what are the minimum numbers, because it depends on a couple of factors. It depends on, first of all, how many people will actually see your test, how many people will actually experience it, how many people in version A and version B. But it also depends on how many people convert, because you could have a very high traffic web page that you're running a test on, very high traffic, but maybe you only get like a 1% conversion rate. If you only have a 1% conversion rate, you need a lot more time and you need a lot more people to see it to actually see a valid result. It also depends on what's the difference in performance. If you have a high traffic, very low conversion rate, you're trying to measure the difference between like a 1% conversion rate and a 1.2% conversion rate, 1.5, that might be hard to validate. But if you see a big jump in performance, like going from a 1% to a 7%, that's probably easier to validate, and you need fewer people and less time to do it. So there's a lot of different kind of moving pieces. Again, there's some great tools and calculators to help you kind of figure that out. We talk about a few of them in that A/B testing course. We give some links and recommendations on when to use different ones and how to use different ones for kind of different applications. Optimizely has a great sample size calculator. If you just Google Optimizely sample size calculator, you're going to find it. Some quick kind of plug in some numbers to tell you how many people you need to see your test. My preferred tool is called A/B Test Guide. If you Google A/B Test Guide, you'll find it. It's a little bit more advanced, sophisticated tool to kind of figure out all those nuances. All right, question from Katie. Do you work with evaluating Give Campus Fund forms? I don't know if we've ever worked specifically with that platform, but Katie, we work in almost any platform. We certainly have preferences on tools that we like and prefer to work in, but the reality is we work with 50 plus different organizations who all have different tech stacks. Sometimes there's overlap, different people using the same email tool, different people using the same CMS, different people using the same CRM. But oftentimes it's kind of mixing and matching and have lots of different tools that they're working with. And even if we prefer a different one, it takes a long time for an organization to switch a CRM. Plus, there's huge investments that have to go into that. So we're very used to working in a lot of different platforms, understanding the pros and the cons of all those different ones and trying to figure out, okay, with the tools we have available, what can we do? We have a company value that we just refer to as MacGyver-like resourcefulness. With the stuff that we have in front of us, how do we make the campaign happen? How do we make the test happen? What's the best we can do with the tools at our disposal? All right, question from Deborah. How do you get the weekly emails? I assume you mean from NextAfter, from us. If you go basically to anywhere on our website, you can find an opportunity to sign up for weekly emails. Go to nextafter.com, scroll all the way down to the footer. There is a sign up form right there. You can sign up and you'll be on our list to receive our emails. We do send out what we call Winston's Weekly, which is a weekly test idea or a weekly experiment with different nuances on how to test it, what you can learn from it. We've got an interesting one coming up next Monday, looking at a specific example of how it can be kind of dangerous sometimes to go hunting in your data for a winner when you're drilling into really nuanced segments, but that can be a way to power your next test idea. So more on that in Monday's Winston's Weekly. Last question we have is from Taylor. Where do we find the library of tests if you're a member? If you go to nextafter.com/experiments, we try to publish as many experiments as we possibly can to our website. We have a tool called Winston Knows, where lots of different organizations are logging all of their experiments. We can kind of see into the whole universe of tests, but some people don't want to share their stuff publicly, and we get that. And so the ones that have given us permission, we try to publish as many of those to our website as possible to go share them with you. So you can kind of look through all those kind of new ones that are coming out and get some ideas. Again, we send out that Winston's Weekly email to give you a new test in your inbox every single Monday, so you don't get overwhelmed with a multi-thousand experiment library trying to find new ideas. And then courses like the one we're talking about, webinars like this, we try to find all the different ways we can to go distill those learnings down into practical things for you. So short answer to your question, nextafter.com/experiments. But as a member, you've got access to all of our courses that are just full of different experiment ideas and things that you can go put to the test at your own organization. I think that's it. I think we're out of questions for today. We're just about out of time. It's 11:59, so we got 1 minute till the top of the hour. I just want to say thank you again for your time, for giving a full hour to stick around and talk about something as nuanced and complicated as A/B testing. Hopefully I haven't scared you away. Hopefully you're actually excited and encouraged that A/B testing is possible for you, and maybe one of the most impactful skills and disciplines that you can develop as a fundraiser, as a marketer, and just at your organization in general to drive better results into the future and increase the impact of your organization. Again, I'd love for you to sign up for the testing course. You can scan that QR code on your screen and go sign up for it. And secondly, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, accelerate your program, not start from zero, but start from everything that we've learned from nearly 7,000 A/B tests. I'd love for you to check out that mystery donor analysis. You can go to that page, fill out the form, sign up for a time to chat with me. If you're on LinkedIn, go ahead and drop a comment. Maybe tag me in it and say, hey, I'm interested in that. And we can reach out. We can have a conversation. You can always find me in my email, nathan@nextafter.com. Thank you again, everyone. I appreciate your time. Best of luck to you as you go implement some of these ideas, as you dive into A/B testing at your organization. And as always, happy optimizing.